my honor and pleasure to welcome the speakers for our first panel, Pathways to Leadership. Marianne Gambelli is a former president of advertising sales at Force Corporation and board member of the Center for Communication. Carole Robinson, Chief Communications Officer at Nielsen. Savalle Sims, Chief Legal Officer at Warner Brothers Discovery and also board member of the Center for Communication. And I'm very excited to be able to step in. Unfortunately, our former moderator had a family emergency, but I'll have the honor to moderate this panel today. So please welcome the speakers with a big round of applause, everyone.
Morning.
How are we doing today? Good. Thank you all so much for joining us this bright and early.
Excited to be here.
Absolutely. Very excited. So I just, read a little bit about yourselves, your bio, your titles, but I'd love to get started with each one of you to tell me a little bit more about what do you do, what is your day-to-day like, so we can all learn from you. Would like to start? Marianne?
Well, my day-to-day is very different now than it used to be because I retired about 8 months ago. But I had a long career of like 40-something years in the media side, working at advertising agencies, and then most recently, I did like a 25-year stint at NBC or NBCU, and then my last few years were at Fox Broadcasting. And my day-to-day was, what I love about media and what I love about this business is the excitement and the fact that you feel like you're in the cultural moment of everything that goes on. It's so fast-paced. We're broadcasters. We're out, serving the public, putting out information, and it feels like you're always part of something new and exciting, and you're at the center of like everything that goes on. And your days are crazy, but you love every minute of it. I had a big staff that I felt I had to. There's good times. There's challenging times. It's not always easy. But when you have a good team and you have a good team support, it makes the day so much better. And I always find that success comes out of a great teamwork. It's never one person. So there's many different facets of what you're managing and many balls that you're juggling. But again, long days are expected. But when you love what you do and you love the people you work with, it makes the days go very well. So that's a little bit.
I love that. That was great. How about you, Carole?
So good morning, and forgive my scratchiness. I hope you can hear me. I have been doing communications for 36 years, and I am relatively new in my role as Chief Communications Officer at Nielsen. So I'm actually still learning, which is really important to me. I feel like I'm a lifelong learner. I always want to have in my job something that is new and makes my brain have to work in a different way. I just think it's good for me and people generally. It is very fast-paced, the field of communications. We're constantly talking to the media and also managing a narrative for the company, both internally with employees and externally with both, reporters that we work with to help us tell our story, and with other constituencies who need to understand the company and what we do and how we're evolving. So at the essence, sort of what I do is storytelling, and I love that.
Nice. Savalle?
So I'm going to take a blend from what both of these fine ladies just said, but so my day, every day starts off pretty much the same, getting on the train. I have a routine. I get on the 627 train on Metro North, and then I either get on the subway or walk from Grand Central to my office, and I get a Starbucks, but I don't drink coffee because it overstimulates me, so I'd be up with 1 cup of coffee for like 3 months in a row. So I get this huge iced tea drink, like a mango dragon fruit refresher.
I've had that.
Okay.
Yum.
Every day. So they know, like when they see me coming around the corner, they have it ready for me. And then I go to my office and everything is chaos. But I'm always logged on, usually by 7:30 at my desk. And I think I know what I'm going to do, but then everything happens and then everything changes. And that's part of why I like my job, because everything is different every day. And I get to help people solve very difficult problems and try to keep people calm. And at some point, there's time for me to actually work, meaning like draft something or read something or do something, create something and tell a story or two. But every day is different, and that's why I like it.
Absolutely. I feel like no matter what stage you are in your career, it's pretty much, communications is about that, right? Very nice. So, Carole, you touch upon a point that is very important, and it's about continuous learning. And I think that's the key aspect of communications and the work that we do every day. Thinking back to when you all started your careers, right? What was something that kind of helped you leading to the next role and the next role? Or what is that advice that you encourage our students and recent grads to start doing early on so they're able to move up?
I'm happy to start. It's funny, we were talking in the green room about hybrid work. And I would say the biggest support for me in my learning was actually going to work. Because I think you don't realize how much you learn just from being around people who are either doing what you do at a higher level or have more experience than you, or people that you connect with in meetings who do something different from you in your work, who you can just watch in action, ask questions about what they're doing, debrief with them, after either a meeting you've been with or without them, and sort of need some more perspective on. So for me, like, most of my learning happened in person, around great people who I felt like I could just really, connect with and learn from. And I would just say, I think in my experience, most people like to talk about themselves and what they do. It's just human nature. So I never shied away from asking people questions. And, you have to be smart about, when you do that and how you do it, because as you were saying about your day, most people in our roles are pretty intensely busy and often under pressure. But if you can find a moment to, get some knowledge from people, and you do it in the right way, it's just tremendously valuable.
I'm going to build off the ask questions, because I think that that's probably one of the most important learning things, capabilities that we have. Most people think that, oh, if I ask a question, someone's going to think I don't know what you're talking about. But when you ask a question, you clarify, you show interest, you show presence, you show your knowledge. So don't be afraid to ask questions. When people would come, when I would sit in a room and we would have a meeting and no one would ask anything, and I go, either no one's getting this at all, which is probably what was happening, or nobody cared. So the fact that someone raised their hand and said, oh, I have this question, and you might be the one that's asking the question that everyone in the room wants the answer to, but is afraid to ask the question. So I always found that those people that were assertive enough to, and interested and present enough to ask questions, be curious, talk to people, take advantage of those opportunities, that someone that you may interact with, that you might not interact with in the office, you may see somewhere. Always try to have something, some sort of point of reference of, oh, I saw this, or I did this, or can you clarify that? And I always felt that those were the people that I wanted to help and I wanted to mentor, because they took the initiative and showed the interest. So don't just sit on your hands and think that everyone's going to think you know something, because you shouldn't. You're all learning in your career. You have lots of questions, and you will have questions throughout your career. Don't be afraid to ask them.
I think it's also really important to pay attention to the basics, how you communicate with people, be responsive. Someone asks you to do something and you say you're going to do something, then actually do it. Actually do it when you say you're going to do it. And if you can't, follow up with them. Don't let emails pile up in your inbox and that you haven't responded to. I think that's very important. And what they're talking about in terms of asking questions, it's a form of showing up and being engaged. and also giving people a glimpse of who you are and that you're intellectually curious. So I definitely think that that is really important. But just pay attention to the basics. Communicate with people, talk to people, show up, be responsive, be on time, come prepared, the basics.
Can I say just one other thing? Because you made me think of something. Because I'm, old, and I'm in a new job, and I have a learning curve. And I did, worry in the beginning. It's like, I really need to understand how this company works, because I'm out in the world protecting and defending it. So I just can't tell you how many times I've sort of pulled somebody aside in the hallway and said, treat me like I just, landed on this planet and have zero understanding of the thing you just said in that meeting, and break it down for me. Because if you don't sort of stop with, and get the basics, then you're sort of out in the company doing your thing with, very little foundation. And a lot can go wrong without that. So key.
And I think you have to have some confidence in yourselves that you bring a lot to the table. You have knowledge and experience that maybe your managers or executives that have been out of the, day-to-day, especially college experience or undergrad experience. So don't underestimate your value too and what you can bring and your different perspective and your knowledge. So, and figure out how that fits in. It doesn't have to be overt, but I think that there's a confidence that comes with your knowledge, your education, and your abilities, and let that show.
Absolutely. I love that you guys talked about that, which just brings me to a thought that I think I've applied throughout my career, and is, I encourage also the fellows and the people that work with me to, yes, connect amongst themselves and network with each other, but they're always a little bit of afraid to ask and to come up with the higher ups and how to ask a question, or is it okay for me to speak with Max, our executive director, or how can somebody, a current intern at one of your companies approach you? So what is the advice that you would have to somebody that would like to learn? Because I honestly, maybe they're not gonna be the ones to get you the job, but you guys are all the one with the most experience and guidance that I feel by just listening to you all is how we learn the most. So how can, interns, fellows approach you or other higher ups in the company to learn from you?
You go.
I mean, time is our challenge, right? Because we're all really busy. So I would say two really important things. If you can be really specific about how we can help you. I do a number of informational interviews with people, and the ones that are really good are when people come in and say, these are my strengths. Because I understand if you haven't been in the working world, you sometimes need a really basic understanding of what it is we do and what skills are needed to do the job. So if you can come in with sort of a really clear, here's who I am, here are my strengths, can I make this ask of you? Sort of be specific about how we can help. Because the meetings that are sort of these nebulous, tell me about, I don't know, I don't find that.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I meet with a lot of law firms who want to work with our company, and the most productive and helpful meetings are exactly what you described. When they come in and they say, this is my experience, here's how I would like to help, here's how I'd like to work with you, can you help me with X, Y, or Z? The meetings that really frustrate me the most are when they come in and they say, and they've requested this meeting, so they've requested my time, and they say, can you tell me about your company? Or can you tell me about how things work here? Or can you tell me about this? And so then the onus is put back on me as opposed to having more of a conversation, and it's not targeted.
Yes.
And it's unclear, and then we kind of leave that conversation I feel like I didn't help them and they didn't help me. And so I agree with everything you said.
Yeah, it's a help us help you.
They didn't do their homework
Yes.
before having the meeting.
And it's also when most of the time, I think, especially as you're trying to move up in your career, you always think you approach your manager and has to be an ask for, oh, I want a promotion, or I want this, or I want that. And it's like, okay, just take a step back. and don't tell me you want a promotion because you've been here for 5 years. Like you need to give me, you know what I mean? So think about have relationship first, because you're never going to get that promotion or that job at that first meeting. So, and again, I love, I was always I'm on the sales side, but for a while I switched over and worked at an ad agency, and I had salespeople come in, and I loved the first meeting. It would always be like, tell me how I can help you. And I was like, get out of my office. That's how you can help me. You know, it's like, so like, again, be prepared, you know, understand the time constraints. But if you're asking for something, then have backup. Don't just be like, well, it's my time. Well, no, it's not your time. What's your work performance? What have you done? What have you accomplished? Where do you want to be? Because a lot of times when people say they want something, I'm like, well, why do you want that? And then it's like, well, I thought I was supposed to ask that. Well, what do you really want? I think you have to be genuine with those types of asks, because just to ask for the sake of asking is just going to turn people off.
And companies are really getting away from promotion based on butts and seats time.
Yep.
You know, they really want to understand what you can bring to that role and what you've learned, and how to apply it to that new role, as opposed to, I've been here for, like you said, 5 years, and so I should now be a senior director instead of a director.
Which I think is a great opportunity, because I think there used to be bottlenecks because of that old philosophy of you need to wait your turn. Now I think your work performance will show your value, and you can leapfrog or you know, move around quicker than you might have been under that old sort of way things were done.
Absolutely, and that really preps up with one of our workshops that we're going to be touching more upon that. But you know, this is a Women in Media Summit, and you know, we're all women that have been leaders in this industry for a bit, and I'd love to hear, you know, what has been maybe some of the challenges you're faced, and maybe how can we ask our other counterparts to help us be more advocate of women in media? Who would like to start with that? Savalle, there you go.
All right, so sometimes it's hard for me to unpack being a woman versus being a minority. But I guess what I would say is I've always felt as though I've had to overdo everything, right? Over-prepare, over-communicate, overwork, just to be taken seriously. And I know that a lot of people say that, and it sounds cliche, but I feel like it's absolutely true. And it was true at the beginning of my career, and unfortunately it continues to be true now, even, you know, with the years of experience that I've had. So I've kind of gotten used to that, and kind of a skill set. But what I would say is, to some of the earlier comments, all of you have value and worth and something to contribute, and you just need to believe in that and decide what you want to do and more importantly, what you enjoy doing, because the most rewarding work experience is where you feel like you can contribute and add value to a larger purpose. It's when you don't know why you're there or what you're doing or how you're going to contribute that makes it less fun and less rewarding. So I think the biggest thing is just believing in yourself, and also like holding yourself accountable. I try to hold myself accountable, you know, for the times when I do things really well or the times when I could have done something better.
I'm going to tell a quick story about a very early work experience that shaped my thinking about how to move through the work world. So I started my career at MTV, which I don't know if any of you are like still connected at all to any of these.
Nodding heads, yeah.
I was super, super excited to be there. I was obsessed with it, and I could not believe that I, you know, actually got to work there every day. And I really worked my butt off, and, you know, I didn't even feel like I was working. I loved it so much. And I was, you know, young, but I saw that there were some changes going on, and there was going to be sort of a new structure that potentially came with opportunity, and I boldly but like very strategically made an appointment to meet with the HR person that was responsible for whatever was happening that would potentially open this opportunity. And I with a lot of humility, sort of went in and said, you know, I just wanted to, meet with you because I understand that these changes are coming and I've been doing X, Y, and Z, and I would love the opportunity to be part of this change, and here's how I think I could contribute. And I'll just say it was a man, and he said to me, well, the word on you is you're ambitious. But he said ambitious like it was a bad word. And I don't know where this came from, but I was like, is that bad? I said that in the meeting. And he said, well, and he sort of was surprised that I, pushed back on that. And anyway, long story short, the reason I share that is that I sometimes think for women moving through organizations, we get painted with a brush that, like, if a man had been, working in the same way, someone would have said to them, you're ambitious, and we're going to move you into this. So it really took me aback. Anyway, I did get that job, and that guy didn't make it long in the HR team, and I cheered a little bit when he left. I'm not a vindictive person or anything, but I guess my takeaway in that is it made me conscious of the fact that the way I was working was perceived in a slightly different way because I'm a woman. I'm not sure that that's true everywhere today. I hope that things are a little different, but I'm sure some of that lingers. And I would just say, don't ever let somebody paint you with a brush that, says being ambitious, hardworking, advocating for yourself is bad, because it's not. And if you are someplace where that is the case, maybe it's not the right place, because, that should be a good thing for women and men.
Absolutely.
So I felt like throughout my career, I was navigating in a man's world. There were lots of women on the entry-level ranks and the middle-level ranks, but as you looked up, it was mostly men leadership. That has obviously changed a lot. And I think now, the opportunity is greater because there are women in leadership positions that can be role models for you. There weren't women in leadership positions when I started. There was jobs that I was basically not allowed to have because women didn't work on a car account, or women didn't work on a beer account, or women didn't sell sports. It was like, what? And I did a lot of firsts. I didn't think about it, I just did the work, and luckily that was recognized, and I obviously grew in my career. But even towards the end, if you sit in a senior leadership, maybe there's still a few women, and it's still a lot of men. But the good news is that there are women, and you have role models, and you have people that you can reach out to. You have someone you can emulate, and I think that will things are changing. The opportunities are greater. But I've been around for a long time. The challenges were, I think, greater then. I think now, the opportunities are endless, and I think having women that you can look to and help you, and men too, by the way. I mean, in my career, men were my mentors because there weren't that many women. So my responsibility now feels like I have to give back, and I want to make sure that women have opportunities and see what's possible. So I have sort of dedicated myself to that, especially the last years of my career, always working in the women's groups, making sure that we were doing reverse mentorships, whatever, to make sure that nobody got lost in the system. So hopefully, like I said, I think the opportunities are greater, but the challenges certainly existed.
Savalle, would you like to add anything?
No, I agree with everything they've said. Everything.
And before I go into my last question, before we start Q&A time, so you all can start thinking about your questions, I'd like to mention that you all broke barriers and paved the way for all of us. So let's please give them a big round of applause for doing that for us. Thank you. Now, my last question before we go again into Q&A is really about women are mothers, caregivers. A lot of the times we're the head of the family. I imagine you all have your families and have overcome challenges and struggle that comes with being a full-time working mom and or taking care of the family. Can we talk a little bit more about that, and what is kind of like either the hope or the solution or something that, you know, these women can start thinking about when it's their turn to have a family and navigate that?
Well, I think the resources exist that make it easier than it used to be. Childcare is more available. Technology, I mean, okay, this is going to sound antiquated, but when I forgot to put the note in for my kid to go on the class trip, there was no way for me to get that note to the school. You know, now between technology and email, there's times has been saved. There's much more interaction. You can FaceTime with your kid if you can't make the game. Like, so there's things that have improved the experience, but at the end of the day, you have to balance your values and what you put as important. And when women would come to me and say, but, you know, I have my kids, and I said, honestly, that should be the most important thing, because those are that's your family, those are your children, they need you, you need, you know, like, so that has to come first. And as an employer, I'd be like, oh, you said that? I was like, well, because it's true, like that's the way I feel, those are my values, and I know you will do your job, and I know you will show up, and I know you will be the best person you possibly can be there, but at the end of the day, if there's something going wrong in if your children are stressed or there's stress at home, it's going to show up in the workplace. So the best thing that we can do is to set your priorities, and whatever they are. Like, you may have a better childcare situation. Your partner may be a stay-at-home. You know, like, again, everybody has a different experience, but you have to choose what's right for you. And there was times in my career that I didn't take that promotion because I just knew I couldn't manage it at that particular time. It didn't slow me down. It slowed me down a little bit, but it gave me some breathing room. And then when I was able to excel when things had, you know, changed in my life, because it's funny, children are young, but the stages change so quickly, and your time and your needs change as well. So don't get caught up in 5 years from now. Just focus in the short period, because in 5 years from now, everything's going to change.
And enjoy the moment.
You had to just be flexible and move through it, but you have to do what's right for you. Don't, oh, if I don't take this job now, I'm never going to get another chance. You will always get another chance.
Absolutely. Anybody would like to add? Yeah.
You know, so I got married very young, but I have one child, and I didn't have her until 10 years after I got married. So for like 10 years, I was an insane workaholic. And I would say that I became so much better at my job when I became a mom. I was like a reformed, judgmental workaholic. I really think like there's just something about understanding, you know, what people who are like juggling parenting and families and caregiving in any form brought to me as an executive, and it truly made me better at what I do. And I would say also that just inherent in what I do as a communications person is caregiving. And so maybe it was just more an aptitude for me that, you know, got sort of more expanded when I became a parent. And, you know, the other thing I would say, and I did always, I agree with you, it has to come first. You know, when I was pregnant, my women friends threw me some kind of a shower or something, and everyone gave me like one piece of advice, and the advice that stuck with me was happy mother, happy child. And work does make me happy. And I think that my child always knew when I was going off to work and whatever she was going off to do, it was filling me up in some way, and when I came home, it filled our house up. So it was always really important to me to have both, but to have, you know, do my best to have balance and to bring the empathy of like being a parent who was juggling a lot to the workplace. It was sort of a virtuous circle.
Absolutely.
Look, I have 3 kids. When I first started my career, I was in litigation. So my schedule was highly, highly unpredictable, because you can't control when you have to go to the courthouse, when you have to write a brief, when you have to file a motion. And it was really chaotic. And I will say, especially early on in my career, where you're making trade-offs in terms of trying to get experience and taking a lower salary because you want to get that experience, you want to learn your craft. It was really hard. Like, paying for childcare for me was the great equalizer. And it was hard to balance and have reliable childcare. And those things, but I think that all of those experiences helped shape my character and have helped me be a more empathetic leader as I'm leading my team and have younger people who have young children, and understanding not just young children, but parents who might need care and others in their family who need care. But it wasn't easy juggling all of that. What I tried to do was set for myself some early boundaries, and that wasn't always achievable, but it's really been important to me. So I would say I'll stay at the office for as long as I need to stay during the week. Like, so if that's 2 a.m. in the morning, whatever it is, to get the work done. But I tried to carve out my weekends for my family, and that wasn't 100% achievable 100% of the time, but it was mostly achievable, and it just helped me restore some kind of equilibrium in my life, and my kids knew that on the weekends I was going to be there to run them to the party, to the games, to the whatever, but during the week they knew where I was as well. So I think it is important to find in yourselves what's important to you and to try to come up with a framework that works. But I just wanted to acknowledge kids are great, but it's not always easy having a hard job and then balancing parenthood. There are times when you can't be where you want to be and do what you want to do.
Absolutely. I mean, that gives me a little bit of hope. I have a 2-year-old as well, and he's probably watching through Facebook Live, but like you mentioned, happy mom, happy child. So thank you very much for that. I'm gonna open up the Q&A questions so everybody can actually come down the steps. I'm gonna ask you to please introduce yourself. We're gonna use this mic right here. Oh, sorry.
Just, this one wasn't working, so we're gonna pivot and use this one. If you're on this side, you can come to this.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So yes, you can please feel free to make a line right there. Please say your first name, last name, school, and then state your question. We have a lot of folks. There's going to be a lot of great questions, so please keep them short and concise so we can get to as many as possible.
Hi.
We're going to be using both.
My name is Madison Collins. I'm a student at the Fashion Institute of Technology. Thank you guys for giving back to your community. I know we all appreciate it. I wanted to ask, a career in media is not necessarily linear as other careers. How do you pivot to new roles and departments?
Would one of Savalle, you look?
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. So I always had a love for storytelling and media, but I did not start off my career in media. I worked for a judge for 2 years, and then I was a divorce lawyer for the rich and famous for 3 years. And then I went to a law firm and got the opportunity to enter media. But one of the things that I've noticed is that within media, I've had several folks on my team, for example, who've left the legal department and transitioned over to the commercial side of the business or to another area within. So I would say the most important thing is to find the area and the profession that you're passionate about, get as much experience in it as you can, and then when the opportunity comes up to perhaps enter into a media organization, you're going to be ready and you're going to have something to offer. That would be my advice.
Yeah, and I would just add, what all three of us do gives you a view of functions across the company, because we have interdependent roles. And if you're not 100% sure where you want to focus, to work in a group that gives you that view will help you figure out ultimately where you want to land, because you do touch other parts of the company in all of our work, really.
Yeah, and the one advice that I would give, it's great to go to the leader of the division that you're maybe thinking of, but what I find is more valuable, and what I used to do, is connect with someone on your level in another area that you might be interested in, and let them explain to you what their day-to-day is like and what their job looks like, because while it may look like something you want to do on the upper levels, when you see the day-to-day, you're like, oh, that's not really, oh, I thought it was different. So I would do some networking on, with your peers, in other parts of the company. And I know at Fox, we went out of our way to bring different areas together, especially on the entry levels or the, maybe second or third tier, just so that people could be exposed to other disciplines and see what what they liked and give some flexibility to move around. But it's not always the leader. I think you find a lot more when you get into, again, your own equal, someone your age and someone who has your experience say, oh, I love this and this is why. And you'll be like, oh, and that might just spark some more interest for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For the sake of making sure everybody gets a chance to ask a question, I'm going to pitch it to one person. All right, very good. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Noof. I'm a graduate student at the New School, and my question is, how do you navigate, or what advice do you have on navigating a rejection and imposter syndrome?
Ooh, Carole, would you like to take that one?
A rejection? Oh my gosh, please do not personalize it. I have a 28-year-old, so I see a lot of her friends. They're sort of in their second phase of job hunting if they didn't find the right thing right away. And I think a lot of job searching has gone online. So in a lot of these cases, you're not meeting somebody, they're just like looking at your resume and your cover letter and making a call. So I think, you have to take rejection as not necessarily, something that is wrong about you, and you have to keep going. I think resilience is everything in life and in job hunting, and pivot. It wasn't the right thing for you anyway. That's my 2 cents.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead. We're going to be using both mics, so please go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much for coming. My name is Amanda. I'm a first-year MBA student at Fordham, pursuing my MBA, and my background was in media, and I've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of women in higher positions, and given that you've been at these large companies in these positions of power, I just wanted to know what you're most proud of, like what impact you've had on the company, not necessarily just as a woman, but like in your roles at these companies.
Savalle, would you like to take that one? We'd love to hear that.
Okay, well, I would say, the most important thing is something that each of these ladies touched on, and that's the team, because you can't accomplish anything alone. It really does take a team to be successful. So I'm proud of the team, first and foremost, that I built. And then the other thing is being able to accomplish like really meaningful work. We've gone through 2 transformational mergers at my company, and being able to get those done in record time and flawlessly has been a real accomplishment and something that I can always point to that wasn't easy, but we got it done.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's go with our next question.
Hi, my name is Khadijah Ray-Jean. Thank you guys for speaking with us today. I wanted to know, how do you manage your why? You guys spoke about, knowing your why. How do you manage your why in the midst of, the changing climate that might, on the surface, feel like it's moving forward, but then backwards at the same time?
Keeping that hope. Marianne, would you like to take that?
So tell me what you mean.
Managing, why you want to do or tell stories or be in media with everything going on.
Well, I just think that you kind of have a passion for something, right? And you want to pursue that. And there's no reason why you shouldn't try. And I know there's a lot going on, but you have to kind of stay focused in terms of what your end goal is. And don't give up. Rejection, okay, that I know that's hard, but it's not you being rejected, right? Something just didn't work out. So you just have to keep pursuing, and if this avenue doesn't work, then pivot, try something else. But always stay true to what you like. You kind of know what you want to do, and you can do that in many different ways. There isn't only just one job for one person. So I just think if you stay open-minded and just keep moving through, I think you'll find success. Versus it's not going to happen. It might not happen immediately, or it might just not happen that first time. And it might not be just one course. And I know my career, I did a lot of zigzagging. You don't always go in one linear direction. So be open to opportunities. I find that the opportunities that are the best are the ones you didn't see coming. So you think you can plan out, because we're all planners, right? You want your life planned out for the next 10 years, but something's going to happen tomorrow that could totally change things. And that may be the opportunity that you never saw, and that may be career changing for you.
That's the fun part about it. Very nice. Let's go ahead. And you can also pitch your question to a specific panelist.
Hello. I just want to restate that I'm really appreciative that I get to be here and learn a lot from you all. I had a question. I know you all speak a lot of pivots, and you guys have had many pivots in your careers. Oh, sorry, I never introduced myself. My name is Ife. I'm a senior at New York University, studying media, culture, and communications, and it's nice to be here again. I guess I wanted to ask, what are some of those signs and some of those catalysts, especially in a media environment that is marked by mergers and acquisitions, that kind of push you to know it is time to pivot, it is time to leave and move on to a space that can cultivate that higher development? And that's to anyone.
You want me to take?
Yes,
I mean, maybe I feel like this is an important thing to share. So I worked at Viacom for 31 years, and I got let go. So it wasn't it wasn't like, oh, gee, I'm dying to pivot now. The company had gone through a lot of changes, and I had obviously been there a really long time, was making a significant salary. The new leaders had people that they had worked with before who did what I do, and they wanted their own person. You know, honestly, it was a good time for me to go because I didn't necessarily feel so aligned with them anyway. But sometimes your pivots are put on you, and sometimes you decide them yourselves. In retrospect, it was a really, really good thing, because when I think of sort of where I was at that time, at that company, I don't think I was doing my best work. I don't think I felt like really aligned with leadership. I think I had to be pushed to leave because it was sort of comfortable for me there for so many years. So I say this to you because I think, you know, we often think like the worst thing that can happen is to get let go, but sometimes it opens up like a tremendous amount of opportunity and growth. And it did. I took a year. I was lucky to be, I know that is a luxury, to be able to sort of take a year to sort of really think about what I wanted to do next. And I went to go work in digital media after that at BuzzFeed for 6 years. And it was awesome, like a ton of learning. And but just to say, like, even a not voluntary pivot can be a great thing.
Right.
Thank you. Let's go with our next question.
Hello, I'm Shayna, and I'm a recent graduate from Purchase College. And the question I have for you today is, what skills do you value most in recent graduates and students?
Ooh, Marianne, anybody?
I mean, I think it still comes back to the fundamentals of how you present yourself, how you communicate, your work ethic, your values. I think everyone has great tech skills. Yours are probably better than mine. But I don't think I think that those are just window dressing. I think it still comes down to the core person and what you bring, your education, all of the things that make you you, I think are still relevant, and the other things are certainly helpful, but that wouldn't be my first. It would be more, what are you about? What do you want to do? What do you want out of life? Like, what's your future, like how driven are you? Those kind of things I think are still more, or much more important or relevant than, again, the other stuff comes and goes. In my view, you're still who you are.
Very nice, thank you. Let's go with our next question.
Hi, my name is Jane. I'm from Bentley University, and I'm really excited to be here. Thank you guys all for being here as well. I had a question for Marianne. I wanted to know how you adapt to changes in the ad sales landscape, specifically programmatic systems, to stay competitive, specifically as the president.
So I went to Bentley College.
Really?
Yeah, I did. It was an accounting school then. Now it's a pretty big marketing school, right?
Yes.
You're asking a good question, so you clearly did your homework. Again, the one thing that's very interesting about the media business is it's constantly changing and it's very dynamic. And programmatic is changing, I think, the way brands access viewers, right? Because they're basically just bidding on content in a different way, where things were probably And again, data is playing a different role than it used to play. So I think the human element is, because it's so vast, the human element is kind of coming out of it a little bit, and we're relying a lot more on data. And again, all your personal information, although you don't believe it, is shared everywhere, or you probably do believe it. So again, a lot of it's coming out that way versus it used to be more of a transactional among people. Now it's happening on a different level. So again, from a career choice, I think you'd have to think about that, and I think that's a really good thought. Do you look at the tech side? Do you go into the data side? Do you, there's still jobs that are, they're different, but they're different skill sets. So, I assume the schools are giving you that type of, and I wonder, actually, that's a question I'd like to ask you, because I'm not sure how well trained you are for that new world, because it's happening so quickly. And it's definitely a shift for sure.
Yeah, so I have this question because I interned at Fox and
Okay.
they taught me about it.
Okay.
I have never heard the word programmatic
Oh.
before, so it's just from that. I don't know
And that's I guess, a concern I do have about, because the landscape changes so quickly, is how does education keep up? And then when you talk about AI, what do you need to know? What skill set do you need to bring because of the changing technology? So that's really interesting. So it's great, because the schools wouldn't have that type of knowledge.
Yeah.
Sure.
Great question. You guys
Thank
can
you.
probably continue the conversation a little bit more.
Later.
Very nice. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Hello, my name. Oh, damn, that is loud. Hello, my name is Amira Figueroa. I am a recent graduate of the Community College of Staten Island. I was wondering, in this landscape where after COVID, a lot of people are having a lot of mental health crises and dealing with workplace and just the general state of things, how do you navigate your mental health at your careers?
Savalle, would you like to take that one?
I would just say, people have different levels of resilience and adaptability to change and also to chaos. And I think what's most important is that you know who you are so that you can take care of yourself appropriately and find a way, given who you are, to make sure that you have the tools and the steps necessary to create an environment that keeps you safe and healthy and happy.
Yeah, you have to make it for yourself. Well, there's very nice. Let's go with our next question. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. My name is Drew. I am a third-year economics student at the New School, and my question is, how do you gracefully navigate pushback from either your higher-ups or your team?
Ooh, Carole, bringing it back to you.
I think you have to find your style on that. But for me, I think it's really important to listen, right? So if you're gonna disagree with something or push back on it, you have to have really heard what it is that you're responding to. And I never bring a disagreement about something or a way of doing something without bringing an alternative. It's just how I operate. So if my boss is suggesting something and I don't think it's the right thing, is that what you mean by pushback? Do you think this is the right answer? I'm just trying to figure, I want to make sure I'm really responding to you. I'd say, you know what, I hear you. I want to propose a different option, and here's why. So I think it's just really important to not push back for pushback's sake, and to acknowledge what it is that you're responding to. Because I don't think people can hear you unless they feel like they've been heard, if that makes sense.
Go ahead.
I also think the audience is really important. Like, who's doing the pushing back?
Yes.
And that's important because, if it's your boss, I agree with everything Carole said. You listen, hear, decide, think, then speak, right? And providing an alternative is always important. But also understanding, especially in a situation where it's your boss, if you've heard them and they've heard you, and they've heard your alternative, and they've made a decision, that at that point, the expectation is, generally speaking, not in every situation, but the expectation is that you're gonna go forward with what they've decided.
Get behind it.
And get behind it. And that's part of leadership too, getting behind things that aren't necessarily popular and that you don't agree with. But like Carole said, it's also very important that before that decision is finalized and being made, that you've had a chance to have your voice heard and you've put your alternative idea out there. But once a decision is a decision, it's a decision. Now, if it's someone who's reporting to you, or a peer or something like that, I think that's a different situation. And I also think it's different depending upon whether or not the importance of the issue that's being pushed back on. You know, is it something that's really fundamentally wrong? That requires a different response and a different course of action as well. So you've asked a very complex question.
Absolutely. And I'd like to add that there is a reason why you're getting pushback, or even after you present, you know, the other idea and they tell you no. So that's what it goes back to. You have to follow your leader. And then later on, you'll learn why you didn't get the chance to do it at the moment. Great question.
Thank you, all of you, for answering.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Hello. Whoa. Good morning, guys. It's a pleasure to see you. Carole, you're hilarious, so thank you all. My name is Marianne. I just graduated from Boston University's College of Communication in their journalism program, and I've been fortunate enough to do a few internships within the broadcast production world and content-based roles. My original question was actually already asked, great minds, but my backup question is about any advice you have for finding a balance through this job search of remaining humble and having humility while also being confident in the experiences and the worth that you have already completed, if that makes sense.
Who would I like to take on that one?
Well, I mean, there's authenticity to everything that you do and everything you bring to the table. So you can't say, well, I'm humble if you're really, you know what I mean? Like you're kind of doing both spectrums. I think you have to be true to yourself and who you are. And you seem very confident, which I think is great. So, and the humility, if that's who you are, will come through. I don't think you can fake anything, and I mean, that's my best advice to all of you, is you have to, there's an authentic you that comes through, and that's what you bring, and I think that's what you have to embrace, and that's what people see, and they see through fakeness, so you can't be very, bravado and then be, oh, but I'm so humble, like nobody's gonna believe that. So you have to find that balance in how you present yourself, but it's also your authentic self and how you wanna show up, because nobody's looking for either one of those qualities separately. They're looking for you as the person and who you are. And someone who's not true or not true to themselves, meaning trying to present something and be something, it's hard. You have to be who you are. And I think that that's what makes you great, right? So embrace that. And then again, your true authentic self.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much.
We do have a chance for just the last two questions, so I'm going to go here and the last one, but there will be other opportunities to keep on asking more questions. Thank you for your understanding. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Firstly, thank you for the panel and thank you for organizing this. It's wonderful to have this opportunity. My name is Neha Lohia. I'm from India originally, and I'm studying here at College of Staten Island, doing my cinema major in production. My question is about returning students, like older people. I'm 42, and I have had an 18-year career already. I was vice president, 20th Century Fox, and then Sony Pictures. And now I'm returning to education because, like one of you all said, that you have to keep up with education. You have to revamp what you're doing. I'm learning virtual reality and different modules in furthering my contribution. So my question is, what would you say, because I face this, and a lot of people are asking this in different ways about the pushback, about this. I often get this that, oh, you're over-experienced. And I'm like, okay, whatever that means. I mean, I'm here to contribute creatively, and I don't think creativity has an age. I don't think concepts have an age. I don't think, as a woman, I don't want to belittle myself saying, oh, I'm overexperienced, I cannot fit in, or they think that I've been a leader and hence I cannot start at an internship position again.
Thank you.
Although, it's like, how do you navigate something like this? If any of you would have something to share.
Carole, I think you're nodding, or Savalle.
Oh, I mean, I think if you are getting that a lot, it would be good to sort of address it before it comes up. It's like, I know you may be looking at my resume and seeing that I've done, lots of different things in this space. And I want to let you know that I'm conscious of the fact that I'm resetting. And this may seem like something that's too junior for me but I'm aware of the fact that, it is a reset for me, and I'm all in for it. Like, I think sometimes you just have to own your narrative.
Right.
And let people know, like, I get what this looks like, I'm conscious of it, this is what I'm doing, and here's why, and I hope you'll consider me.
Right. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's have our last question, please.
Hi, it's nice to meet you all. My name is Vanessa Cruz, and I'm a third-year student at Brooklyn College. My question is for Savalle. You mentioned earlier how sometimes you feel like all the time you feel that you have to overperform. So my question is, in the beginning of your career, did you feel imposter syndrome? And if so, how did you overcome it? And then it's kind of like a two-parter. The next part would be, how do you suggest presenting yourself in a way that says, I'm meant to be here?
Good question.
Two very profound questions. I think, look, I'm going to go back to something Carole said earlier. It's very important to know who you are and to not let somebody determine who you are and what you can do. That's kind of table stakes and fundamental. And once you've gotten past that mental hurdle of, because people will always tell you what you can't do or what you can only do, and only you can really decide what you can do. So once you've decided what you want to do and that you're going to do it, then you have to just go forth and take all the steps necessary to accomplish that. I was at a dinner a couple months ago where Nancy Pelosi was at this dinner, and she said, once you've made the decision to win, you've got to make every decision to win. And I think that it's exactly the same thing. Once you decide you want to do something, you have to go forth and do it. And you have to understand that even if people don't believe in you, what's more important is that you believe in yourself, and you just do the work and you put one foot in front of the other. And eventually, through doing the work, getting the results, developing a reputation, and by developing and cultivating relationships that these fine ladies mentioned, you are going to be successful.
Absolutely. Wow, we couldn't have ended on a better note. Thank you all so much. Please give our amazing panelists another big round of applause. Ladies, it was my honor to be here with all of you today. Thank you so much for your time.